Aloha, aloha. It's Late Nights with Young Han Hawaii, sharing aloha with the world on KPRP 650 AM, live streaming on KPRP AM 650. Okay, so this is my first show. How's it going? And to the right of me, I have a very special guest. This man has traveled around the world and has done more major feature films than I can even really imagine to name off right now. So instead, what I'd like to do is introduce the department head of makeup for Hawaii Five-0, Jeff Don. Welcome.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. It's good to be here.
We're really happy to have you. It's a blessing. Thank you so
Honored
much.
To be here.
Great. Okay, so let's see. Where do we want to start? Why don't we start with, so he is a third generation makeup artist. So basically from, your grandfather was the one that kind of started off with the family?
Yes, my grandfather, Jack Don, came to Hollywood back in the turn of the century.
Okay.
He was an artist. He had his own horse, and he didn't know how to make some money. So he went to the studios and said, hey, I've got a horse. I can be an extra. How about hiring me? And they did. They hired him, and he had the ability to do makeup. He could come in one day if they needed miners with long beards. He could come in the next day if they needed Middle Easterners. He would make himself up to look like whatever they needed that day.
Amazing.
He was a Keystone Cop. And that's how he got started as a makeup artist.
So he did the makeup, applied it to himself, and then showed up for the role?
Exactly. He would show up as the character. They'd say, you know what, I'm sorry, we can't use you 25-year-old Caucasian, 6'2" man.
Right.
We're looking for Indians, or we're looking for literally African Americans. You can't do that nowadays for various reasons. But
of course,
back in those days, you would just make yourself into anything that they wanted you to be.
Right. So basically to fit the project.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. So how did that transition? Because that's amazing. That's 3 generations. So how did it go from your grandfather to your father? How did he get into the business?
Well, once people started looking, back in those days, actors did their own makeup. You didn't have makeup departments for the most part.
Sure.
So some of the producers and actors and directors were saying, you know what, can you help this actor over here or that actor over there? He's having a little trouble. So he would help him out.
Right.
And people started recognizing this. Many years later, he became the director of makeup at MGM Studios, where he held that position for 15 years, doing 100 films, including Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
So
that
he was
amazing.
The director of makeup for MGM Studios during that time. And then my father, who was a World War II fighter pilot, came back from the war and apprenticed under him at MGM Studios, became a makeup artist. His brother, Jack Don's other son, Wes Don, apprenticed and became a makeup artist. So then I decided to do it in 1981 to become a makeup artist, and my father trained me.
Wow, so it definitely runs in the blood, that's for sure.
It does, and my son, who has gone through film school, Patrick, is not a makeup artist, but he loves the film industry, and he actually worked on Hawaii Five-0, along with you and myself for several years before moving back to L.A.
Yes, I always credit you. Patrick Don, if you're listening, shout out. You have definitely gave me I believe you gave me the experience that I needed to make it, at least as far as I went as a production assistant. I don't think I'm anywhere near his level, but, shout out to you. I hope you're hearing this right now.
Hey, Patrick.
Okay, so let's talk more about you now. What was the, what you consider your first break? Because, as we both know, getting into the film industry is no easy task. So what did you have to do? How did you get there?
Well, I had decided to become a makeup artist with or without my father's help. My father was this makeup artist. He was a fairly famous makeup artist at the time.
Sure.
Had won awards, was well respected and known in the industry. And I was worried that he was going to say, you know what, don't be a makeup artist. Do anything else, but don't just follow in my shoes, because that's the easy thing. So I started looking into it on my own. I talked with my uncle. I visited many different sets, and I finally decided I wanted to be a makeup artist. I'd tried different things. I'd gone to college for engineering. It wasn't my interest so much. I was an artist. I wanted to run makeup departments and be a makeup artist like my father and my uncle and my grandfather before them.
Sure.
So I finally approached my dad, and my dad said, great, I'll train you, I'll support you, which shocked me because I thought he was going to go, oh, no, my son wants to be a makeup artist too. This is the easy road. But once he realized I made up my own mind and it was something that I was passionate about,
sure,
he supported me. So that was step one. I thought it would be easy to get in the union. There's a union that it's very difficult to get in.
Okay.
That offers better jobs, better pay. It just offers better projects out there for you. And I thought, as this family lineage behind me, I'd be able to get into it right away. It took me 5 years. So I was offering up my services for free to UCLA and USC students that were doing projects. I was doing American Film Institute projects for free, because when you do these things, you can experiment and you can fail.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
they're not paying you anything. So
Absolutely.
you do a beauty makeup or you do an effects makeup and you experiment and it succeeds or it fails. Who cares?
Right.
So I did that for several years, and then I got a call. I'd done a few non-union projects, including To Live and Die in L.A., and I got a call to do this film called Terminator.
I think that our listeners are definitely familiar with that one.
Yes, and I knew nothing about this. I went to the local magazine store and I picked up a trade journal and I looked it up. What is Terminator? What is Terminator? Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, you got to keep in mind, at that point in my life, I was a huge bodybuilding fan.
Sure.
I was into bodybuilding. I was going to the gym once or twice a day.
Right.
I wanted to get as big and strong as I could. I had read Arnold's book, Education of the Bodybuilder, several times. I had watched Pumping Iron several times.
Right.
I stood in line for 4 hours with my then girlfriend, later to be my wife, Cheryl, to see Conan the Barbarian.
Yes.
Arnold Schwarzenegger was a god to me. If I was ever a fan to anyone, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. I had posters up of him and everything. So Absolutely. Here I am. I'm about to go meet this guy because I'm going to be the makeup department head on this movie called Terminator.
Sure.
Needless to say, I was nervous.
That was like, being a comic geek, I would compare that to me meeting like Superman if he were actually a real character, not fictional, or maybe Bruce Lee if I were in the same.
Yes.
You know.
In 1981, that was, I was there. That was my Superman, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Absolutely.
So I'm hired by James Cameron, who's the director and producer on Terminator, and Gail Ann Hurd, who is also producing it. And they said, we want you to be the department head. You just need to meet Stan Winston and be signed off by Stan. Stan was the animatronic makeup designer and did the makeup effects. He built everything.
Okay.
So I met Stan, and Stan knew my father. So great. Congratulations. Welcome to the show. Hey, Jeff, we're going to do a makeup test next week here at the studio on Arnold. We'd like you to come and observe.
Okay.
No problem. Great. So I show up there, and I know I'm going to meet Arnold, and I'm just nervous as hell. And I'm supposed to be there and observe these makeup effects that are going to go on Arnold.
Sure. So
I come in, and all of a sudden I hear, hey, how's it going, everybody? What's going on around here? What are you guys all doing here? And I'm thinking, no, this is Arnold. I used to joke around in the gym. I go, hey, everybody, time to do some reps. And I would joke around in the gym up in Northern California where there was no celebrities and Arnold was a million miles away. So here I am hearing the real voice. And he comes walking in and he meets all of us and he meets me and he sits down in the chair. And I meant Stan Winston's people, were going to do an eyebrow cover on him. Okay. Because there's a scene in the movie where Arnold goes through a fire and his hair is mostly burned off, and his eyebrows are all burned off.
Okay.
So it was a prosthetic that goes over each eyebrow and covers the hair, and then it has to blend to the skin so it looks like real skin.
Of course.
He sits in the chair, and all the prosthetics and all the colors are laying there, and nobody's doing anything. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm not supposed to do this. I'm supposed to observe this. I'm the makeup department head on the show, but these guys are going to do the effects.
Sure.
And nobody's doing anything. Okay. Well, here we go. I just grabbed the piece and I started putting it on him, and I put it on him, and it turned out really well. And Stan Winston comes to me later and goes, hey, kid, I saw what you did in there. That looked really good. Really good. Okay. I was going to have you just department head the straight makeup in the show, but now if you're cool with it, you're going to be, part of the effects team. You're going to be the lead on Arnold. I'll have my guys there too to help, but you're going to be there in his face. I go, great.
Wow.
So it was one of those times you just take a big chance. And
sure.
I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I don't think I was supposed to do that. But that's how it all started. It started in that makeup effects studio at Stan Winston. And, of course, Terminator went on to be a huge sensation around the world.
As we all know.
And spur several more films, which I worked on. And that was really my turning point right there.
So basically, you took a leap of faith and it paid off.
I did. There's one other quick note on doing that. Not that I promote people, pretend to be a air traffic controller when you're not, but
That's really good advice.
Yeah, there was a time when I first started my career,
Sure.
which was right about that time, actually. I was working on a play called Private Lives with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton.
Wow.
Yes. I was doing the makeup for Richard Burton at the time. And it was wonderful because Elizabeth Taylor had worked with my grandfather at MGM Studios and had all these great stories.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am, this young kid, I'm 24, 25 years old, just green as can be, but hungry to prove myself.
Sure.
And Richard Burton, who comes in, who passed away a few years after that, he was probably 70 or so at the time. He said, Jeff, my last makeup artist, he would cut my hair once a month or so. Would you mind doing that? And I said, sure, no problem. I didn't know anything about hair cutting. I had watched people do it, as we all have. I'd watched hairdressers do it before.
Right.
He wanted a haircut right then. And I remember turning around with my back to him, and I pick up the hair shears, because all makeup artists have hair shears for various things, laying beards and things like this. I mean, we're not unfamiliar with hair work, but when it comes to actual hair cutting and hairstyling, it's
layers
it's
and
a
angles,
stretch.
all that, yeah.
Yes. So I turn around with my back to him, and I pick up the shears, and I pick up a comb, and I'm trying to remember what I've seen hairdressers do. Okay, they comb, put the shears in this hand, put the brush in the comb in that hand. Okay, brush in the hand. Okay, I got it right. And I turned around, and I cut his hair. He said, that turned out really good. Thank you very much. Well, he called me to his home on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills for the next month, for about the next year before he passed away, to cut his hair, and he would pay me cash each time. He loved the haircuts. So I completely bluffed that to the point where I had no idea what I was doing, but it worked. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I can cut a pretty good head of hair just because of bluffing, and you bluff long enough. Like I said, don't do this if you're an air traffic controller or a heart surgeon.
Of course, absolutely.
Kind of like Catch Me If You Can. I can relate to that movie because here's this kid who knows nothing about this, but he can bluff his way through it.
Right.
So I spent a lot of years in the beginning bluffing. Hey, Jeff, can you do this? Oh, I'm an expert at that particular kind of makeup. Sure, bring him over here. I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to do this? But I bluffed long enough now that I'm not bluffing anymore.
Well, I imagine after you go through so many years of experiencing with a success and hopefully very little failure, eventually the skills are just going to kind of like speak for themselves.
They do, because you hone your skills. I hire people, because I'm a department head. Sure. I hire dozens, sometimes hundreds of makeup and hair people throughout a project or throughout a year on different films.
Okay.
And I don't profess to be the best at any one of those things. I'm a good makeup artist at everything. You have to be as a department head. You have to be able to do beauty. You have to be able to do effects. You have to be able to do a bald cap or lay a beard, deal with the politics, deal with the finances and such.
Sure.
I hire people that are better than me. And there's so many of them out there that you can bring in that are fantastic at their skill. But it takes one person to put it all together. So I'm constantly searching for and finding people that are really, really good artists. But maybe they haven't had the break, or maybe they don't have the leadership strengths to run a department. But they're happy as can be with somebody in their chair doing their art. And it makes me look good as a department head. I get the blame, and I also get a lot of the credit.
Sure.
So it's up to me as a department head not to share that blame publicly.
Absolutely.
If a director doesn't like something, I'll say, well, that person did it over there. You can never do that as a department head. You have to take that hit. And when they say that looks fantastic, if you want to have a strong crew, you've got to say, you know what? Mary or Bob or Bill over there did that work. And at the end of the day, your crew appreciates that. And what does the production remember? What does the director there remember? They remember if you hire Jeff Dawn or somebody like Jeff Dawn, and there's a success record there because of whatever reason, that's all they want to know.
So in a way, almost like in a military fashion, like the 4-star general.
You have to be. You have to be, and that's a good way to look at it, because you're not as strict as the military, but you have to look at it as a business, as something that keeps moving forward. It starts at 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and every minute costs money. And as the makeup department head, it's up to me to get the cast out of the trailer looking right and happy. If I'm filling their head full of negative thoughts, or, oh, this director's an idiot, or your co-star doesn't know what they're doing, that's the worst thing possible. It's up to me and my crew to fill them with confidence, to fill them with joy, to fill them with getting ready for the day on the set. Sure. And the whole time I need to keep my crew happy. I need to keep production and the dollar people happy, make sure that the actors are happy, and just keep that machine rolling all day until they finally say, cut, wrap.
Okay.
So every day is a potential of a disaster or a great success, the way I look at it. And you have to be prepared for both of those.
You're right. You're right. You know what? I do remember you telling me that on the set. Now, we're going to continue this interview, but we're going to go and take a break and shout out to our sponsors.
My name is Norma Santos, programming eternally every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. here at KPRP Radio, Pinoy Power.
Babalik na tayo dito sa ating programa, dito sa KPRP 650 AM and PinoyPowerMedia.com.
Aloha. You're rocking with Late Nights with Young Han Hawaii, sharing aloha with the world, and we're streaming live on KPRP AM650.com. Now, we have a special show. Once again, we're picking up with my guest, my honorary guest, Jeff Don.
So nice to be here.
Okay, so, so the question I want to ask, I'm pretty sure our listeners want to know your background with all the different projects you've done. I imagine there's too many to name on the show, but if you had to name, let's just say your top 10 that you really enjoyed, what would they be?
Wow. Probably the most enjoyable film I've ever done was Star Trek 4.
Hey!
Star Trek 4. That was the one about the whales.
Right.
And the reason I love that is because I was able to get in the union at that point. I was practicing with people on the set and putting beards on people and working with my uncle, who was the department head at the time, on Star Trek 4, who'd done several of the Star Trek films. We went to locations like San Francisco, Monterey, and I was able to get in the union. It was just a lot of happiness and closure. My father had done the first Star Trek Where No Man Has Gone Before as the pilot.
Right.
And then he worked with Leonard Nimoy for a couple of years on Mission Impossible.
Mr. Spock, right?
Oh, yes, Mr. Spock. So then I came on and I worked on Star Trek 3, 4, and 5. And I ended up probably doing Leonard Nimoy's Spock makeup probably 80 times over those years, and getting to know that whole cast very well. Now, this is also at Paramount Studios, where I, as a little boy, had gone and visited my father when he was department head on Mission Impossible.
Okay.
And remember going to the original Star Trek set and meeting Bill Shatner, looking up at him and going, wow, that guy looks like a movie star.
Yeah.
I was a kid at the time.
Of course.
And going to the Bonanza set and seeing all these things and all of these great shows that were on at the time. And just having stars in my eyes as a child. And then suddenly I'm there as a fellow worker. I'm part of this crew on the Star Trek films.
Mm-hmm.
So that was wonderful for me. I've done 19 films with Arnold Schwarzenegger, starting with Terminator 1.
Okay.
That has taken me around the world many times, and I've enjoyed working with Arnold for the 19 years that I did up to the point where he became governor. I did 7 pictures with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
The Rock, yeah. Hawaii's own.
And Rock is I still call him Rock. He likes to go by Dwayne now because he's kind of transitioned over. But when I first met him on Scorpion King, it was one of those introductions again. And hello, sir, what should I call you? Should I call you Dwayne or should I call you Rock? Oh, call me whatever you want, kid. So I said, you know what? I'm going to call you Rock because it just felt right. Mm-hmm. So to this day, if I see him, I go, hey, Rock, how's it going? And he's fine with that for certain people.
Of course.
But he's transitioned on. He's now Dwayne Johnson because he's a superstar.
You know, when I had seen him in The Rundown, which, from what I understand, that was a project you were a part of, yes? Okay. I was actually a huge Rock fan, and I was curious because I think Hulk Hogan had a minor success in doing things here and there, and then kind of went back into wrestling. But with The Rock, he had like that real fresh, new, I'm jumping right out of a comic book action hero kind of look going on.
Yes.
And he always was very articulate when I would watch him in the shows and whatnot. And anywho, I was very surprised. I think a lot of people had been surprised to see that he actually had the acting chops.
He did. Now, there's a lot in common between Arnold and The Rock. Arnold was an athlete that was in a very small niche sport as far as the world of sports is concerned, bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
And the general idea that people had of bodybuilding back in the 70s was that they were either dumb or that they were gay or that they were not articulate. They just didn't have star qualities in their mind. And Arnold comes along and he proves that that's not true. He's charismatic, he's intelligent, he's opinionated on world events, that he's very charismatic in front of the camera. He can laugh at himself. And that's the thing that both Rock and Arnold have. They have very strong self-deprecating humor. They will make fun of themselves in a heartbeat, which really diffuses anybody else around them.
Right, of course.
So that was wonderful. And, and then The Rock comes along and he's part of the wrestling world. And there's a preconceived notion of wrestlers.
Kind of the same way.
For various reasons. And he comes along and he proves that you can be handsome and physical and charismatic and intelligent and be box office. That's what it's all about.
That is the truth.
Both of these guys were told all the way along, forget it, nobody's ever done it successfully. Mm-hmm. And they both screamed to the top of that world and proved that you can do that. So it doesn't matter. I mean, look at an actor named Ronald Reagan years ago, came along and then became governor and then became president. So anything goes in this world.
Sure.
Especially in America.
So when I actually watched, I couldn't believe that Arnold made a cameo on Rundown. What was that like?
Well, actually, that had to do a lot with me.
Really?
It did, because I called Arnold. Arnold knew I was working with The Rock on the Rundown, and I'd done Scorpion King with The Rock. And then we had the Rundown. And to me, I love the Rundown. The Rundown, not only did we film it here on Oahu and also on Kauai a little bit, but and him being from here, being very passionate about his history here and his heritage, his Samoan heritage as well as his black heritage.
Sure.
And, of course, we were also prepping and talking about doing King Kamehameha. That's a whole other ballgame there, but which hopefully will happen someday. But it was wonderful working with Rock on that, and I said to him, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool to get Arnold here? We were working in Hollywood at the time.
Okay.
And the director, Peter Berg, said, Jeff, you should call him and try to get him on the show. And I go, yeah, okay, don't get your hopes
Let's not get
up.
too crazy.
So I remember calling him, and I go, Arnold, we're filming not that far from you guys. You should come by and visit. Maybe we can talk you into doing a cameo.
Right.
Jeff, you never know. Okay, I'll try to come by later. And he shows up, and we have a lunch there, and Peter Berg comes up, and he's talking with him, and The Rock is there. And he goes, Arnold, I'm ready to hear a no with this, but if we got you some wardrobe, would you be okay doing a cameo? He goes, looks at his watch. Yes, you've got an hour. So it ended up being this cameo that everyone thought was almost the passing of the torch.
Yeah, that's exactly.
He looks at him and says, hey, kid, how's it going in the club? Mm-hmm. And it all came down literally an hour before that.
Wow.
And, I have to take a little credit for that one.
Take all the credit for that one.
Well, Arnold had to say yes.
Of course.
Of course. So I can't, it's not like I forced him or talked him into it. I just happened to kind of push that button maybe at the right time.
But you built the rapport and you had a strong relationship with him both on and off set. That's why too, right? I believe that had like a large impact
if Arnold's
on that.
not going to do anything he doesn't want to do. So he respected The Rock so much then as he still does. As this guy that was very similar to him, a younger version that was coming up behind him.
Sure.
And Arnold never felt threatened by it. He always loved the fact. When he'd see other people successful, he loved it. Arnold's not intimidated by people, and he's also never been insecure whatsoever. He's the most secure guy you can imagine, which made him a very formidable foe when it came to bodybuilders, because bodybuilders generally are not that secure.
Absolutely.
There's a high level of insecurity in bodybuilding. Not that they're all that way, but Arnold came along and basically said, sucks to be you guys. I'm going to be number one, and you guys can fight for number two.
Right.
And he believed it, too, and they knew he believed it. So they're like, oh, man, okay.
When I, as a little boy, when I had first seen Arnold, I actually seen him on Conan. Mm-hmm. And it's strange because I had this, this idea that he was really like that in real life. When you're a child and you see like someone that's really big and famous, when you see in the movies, you don't know yet that that's not how they are.
Right.
And then later on, I think I'd seen him in Terminator and then Terminator 2, and he did that. What was it? The USA Fitness. Well, he had a fitness program.
He was the president's counsel on physical fitness for George Bush.
Yes.
Yes.
So he would do this thing though. Like I would see these commercials, and he'd be holding the kids, and he would smile, and it was almost like sunlight was like emanating from his being, and like it just always seemed like not just the way he looked or way he carried himself, but even the way when he would communicate to the public, and when he would do interviews and stuff like that, he was just like very, very enticing. And I got this vibe off of him that he was really more humble, mainly because he knew that he was the man.
Right. Yeah, and it comes down to a confidence. If you're arrogant and you're insecure, sometimes that confidence is embellished.
Okay.
It's pretend.
Sure.
And you can spot that. If you know that world, you can spot that in a heartbeat. Arnold certainly can. With Arnold, he knew that he was, the strong guy. He knew that he was the successful guy, the charismatic guy, all of those things.
Sure.
And he's still to this day a fantastic role model when it comes to the business and success world. He's taken his hits from time to time, as everyone has, but when it comes down to his role model in business and success and running your life, constantly improving and moving ahead without stepping on people. I've seen Arnold for, what has it been, since I first met him in 81 or 82, and he hasn't changed a bit, even through his governorship. I used to stop by in Sacramento because I had a home in L.A. where I was working often, and then my main home has been in Oregon for the last 25 years. So I would drive through Sacramento, and I would call up and see if his assistant, is he in town? I'm going to be by between 3 and 4 tomorrow, and once a year or so I would stop in, and Arnold was just like he always was as the star. And he would be holding court, and he'd love to have his friends, and he'd be smoking his stogies,
Sure.
talking about good old times and laughing. Arnold loves to laugh. He loves to have positive, happy people around him that are filled with joy and filled with wanting to improve the planet, the environment, the person on the left and the right of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he got into politics. That's why he's been such a strong role model for so long. Because he loves to see everything around him improving.
Wow.
Their attitudes and finances and governments and ecology and people being fed and people getting fitter. He just loves to see everything moving forward and improving.
Okay. And on that note, we're going to go on our break and shout out to our sponsors. Aloha.
Sa KPRP 650 AM and PinoyPowerMedia.com.
Aloha, you're rocking Late Nights with Young Han, sharing aloha with the world, KPRP 650 AM. Okay, so to the right of me, I have a special guest, Jeff Don. Okay, so I know that our listeners, there's something very, very interesting that you have to share, and that would be, how did you go from being a Hollywood boy to being a Hawaii boy? How did that transition work out?
That's a good question, because that's happened over many years.
Sure.
My first exposure to the islands was in 1985 when I came here for a late honeymoon, late because we weren't married. We'd been married for several years.
Okay.
With my wife, we went to Kauai and stayed at, I forget the hotel that was destroyed by the hurricane there. It's a shell of a hotel over there now. It's very sad over in Kauai, but we stayed there.
Okay.
I'm then called back to do Flight of the Intruder, which is a Vietnam era type film, and we shot the Vietnam, Cambodia areas here, both on Oahu and Kauai.
Sure.
So I was here in 1989 for that, for several weeks. I came back to do The Rundown with The Rock, and we filmed that on Oahu and Kauai. Was here for a couple of months at that time. This was probably in the early 2001 or two. Back again to do part of season 5 of Lost and almost all of season 6 of Lost.
Okay.
Then I did a picture called Battleship that we filmed here.
Right, that's with Battleship. That is with Rihanna was in that,
Rihanna
wasn't it?
was in that. That was a huge effects film that they were trying to turn into a kind of a Transformers film, and it really didn't work. But it was a lot of fun to work on. It was great being here at the island.
I was amazed because that's a board game that turned into an action film.
It is, but welcome to the world of Hollywood. Let's make money any way we can, and sometimes it works. Sometimes they shake up that those dice and they all come out sevens. Other times you put lots of great ingredients in there and it comes out
snake eyes. Yeah,
it comes out something terrible.
I got you.
So I did that, and I got a call from the Hawaii Five-0 people saying, "Hey, would you like to take over Hawaii Five-0? Our makeup artist wants to leave the show, and we're interested in you coming here." So I said, "Sure, sounds great. Let me meet the people." I'd already known Daniel Day Kim from Lost.
Daniel Day Kim. Hey, shout out DDK.
DDK.
All right.
And Daniel was very happy to hear that I might be taking over the show, Hawaii Five-0. So he put a good word in for me.
Okay.
And it was on. I wanted to do it. They wanted me here. So I came in midway through season 1 of Hawaii Five-0, and now we're almost to the midway season on season 5. So,
wow.
For a mainland Howley boy, I'm about as kama'aina as it gets now for being here this many years.
Oh, yeah, you're local, that's for sure.
I'm local now, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I still don't look local, but I can. I know where to eat, and I know what to say and not to say.
You have the spirit. You have the spirit.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment. Somebody told me when I first came here, they'd go, if the island is right for you, it's going to keep you here.
Mm-hmm.
If the island isn't right for you, it's going to kick you off.
Sure.
And that has really resonated with me because I can't leave the island now, it seems. I mean, I leave the island, I go back to my home in Oregon because I love the mountains and the streams, and I love camping and all those. I love cold weather and all those things that has to offer.
Oh, sure.
But this island just keeps bringing me back, and I'm happy to come back each time. I have so many friends here and so many great memories that I'm loving it. If I never work anywhere besides Oregon and Hawaii again in this film and television industry, I will be a happy guy.
I'm really happy to hear that. It's very interesting because the funny thing is that a lot of folks believe that you have to be born here to really be able to represent the spirit of Hawaii. I totally disagree. I believe that it's in the person. It's in your heart. You're either that or you're not. Clearly you are.
Well, that's true. I've traveled so much and worked for months and even years at a time in different countries and different states. And it's very true everywhere. You can walk off a plane and people see you as a foreigner. And they go, okay, here comes the ugly American, or here comes the Howley, or here comes whatever. Because Americans are not, I say Americans, mainland Americans, are not always welcome in countries and even other states. That's for a reason, okay? So what are those reasons? If you come off of a plane and you respect the culture, you respect the food, you respect the language, the people, the history, you respect what's important to them, these people are going to take you in. I found that in every country I've gone to around the world. If they realize that you're not a threat to who they are and what they've been for thousands of years, they're going to take you in like one of their own. I mean, it's so wonderful to go to these different countries and to be seen at first and go, you know what, I'm going to win these people over. Not through manipulation, not through complimenting or things like this. I'm going to do it by just being myself and respecting them.
Sure.
And a few days or weeks or months later, I'm meeting their relatives and eating at their private little places and all that. And that's what I'm going to finish this life up appreciating the most, is all of that culture that I've been able to absorb.
Okay, so, I wanted to share something because we briefly mentioned it a couple times. I actually met you on Hawaii Five-0. I think it was season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Season 4. I came in as a production assistant. Shout out to Lon Takaguchi, who actually got me onto the set. I gotta say, when I first met you, I had actually, everybody on the set, what they would refer to as the Don. And, it blew my mind away because when I had heard briefly about your background and everything, to stand next to you and you just you had like that same energy that I even saw off of Arnold. Like, you just kind of carry yourself with this humbleness, but with a silent confidence at the same time. But at the same time, you're just so people friendly, which is amazing. After all these years of being in the business, I imagine that's why you're still here.
It's why I'm still on this island, that's for sure, because you can be an arrogant jerk in a lot of places in the film and television industry and get away with it.
Right.
You can burn bridges because there's a lot of bridges to burn.
Sure.
As you and I know, you burn a bridge in Hawaii and everybody knows.
Oh yeah, they all know. Everybody knows each other.
Everybody, yeah. The wireless coconut is going to tell everybody around you that you're a jerk.
Sure.
So you can't do that. You can't screw up here. You can't. I say screw up like in your job, but you can't do people wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's your general nature, it's going to come out sooner or later, and everybody's going to know about it. So this island, these islands and this culture has made me a better person. I come here a little more type A, a little more arrogant from my time in the mainland. And within no time, I've mellowed out. I have learned to stop and appreciate things much more.
Sure.
So the longer I'm here, the better person I become. And that's the way it is with all Hawaiians. This is the culture here.
Sure.
You guys, I don't know how much you know. I say you guys. I say that because there's a world out there that doesn't know how wonderful you are with family, how much you appreciate and respect family and culture and history, way more than most places do, certainly more than the mainland does for the most part. The South and smaller towns generally are much more family-oriented.
Sure.
And appreciate these things in life. But the coasts are not at all. It's a dog-eat-dog, almost soulless place. L.A., I know well, I'm comfortable there, but L.A. is fairly soulless. I'm sorry, folks, to say that, but if you're from L.A., you know what I'm talking about.
We still love you, though.
You know what? I have a lot of friends in L.A., and L.A. has been good to me with work, so I'll forever appreciate that. But I'm sorry. L.A. is, compared to other cities, is just, it'll chew you up and spit you out. You better have money, you better have a plan, and you better have your survival vest on.
Absolutely.
If those things are in place, then you can benefit from living in L.A.
So let me ask you a question. So I'm pretty sure that since we've talked a little bit about 5-0, what do you have any funny stories you want to share with maybe one of the guys from the cast, or something you've seen on the set or a particular episode? Was there something that just really tickles your fancy every time you think about it?
Well, we joke around a lot. I mean, I'm from the film industry for the most part. My whole career was in film.
Sure.
And I was brought over here by Steve Laporte, who was the makeup department head on Lost, to help out with Lost on season 5. And Steve and I go back 30 years.
Okay.
Many films. Steve's worked with me on probably 15 films over the years, including a couple of the Terminator films. And I wasn't used to TV at all. In film, you spend all day doing maybe 2 pages of the script, 2 pages of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a much slower, chill pace. So you can prankster, you can do all of these kind of things. In TV, it is go, go, go. You're shooting 6, 8, 10 pages a day, and you don't have time to screw around. You don't have time to make fun for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we don't have a lot of fun.
Sure.
We have a great cast on Hawaii 5-0. That was a big part of me wanting to be on the show, because when I met them, I thought, these are all cool people. Actors can be children. They can be naughty children. They can be dangerous children. They can be insecure children. I keep using the word children because in a lot of ways they are. They just make more money and have more power.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a great deal of respect for actors, but at the same time, you get a couple of bad apples and they can really make hell for people on the set. Generally not so much with the makeup and hair department, because they need us.
Of course.
Okay, we're a little closer to them. They need us a little more. They're going to treat us with more respect than they do the average person. But
absolutely,
a lot of actors can be difficult. And it only takes one in a group to kind of ruin the whole project.
Right.
Hawaii 5-0 doesn't have that. And that's one of the reasons I want to stay over and over and over. It's the island, it's the project itself, it's the crew that I have,
mm-hmm.
and it's the actors, because the actors are good at what they do. They take it very seriously, and you can joke around with them. Alex, our lead, who plays Steve McGarrett, we say the most absurd things to each other that I won't mention here because it's a family show, but it's guy talk. It's locker room talk.
Sure, absolutely.
You know? And it's so great to be able to say stuff like that. Like the other day, we had a close-up of Alex, and he had his leading lady that we're introducing this season to his right, and it's a close-up of him. And I walk over, and I'm touching him up, and there's a bunch of people there, and I go, Alex, it's amazing how handsome you are on the monitor, but in person, you're just not that handsome. He starts cracking up, and everybody there cracks up. Of course, Alex is a really good-looking guy in person and on camera.
Oh, yeah.
But I can say that kind of horrendous thing to him before a close-up, and he'll just crack up. He loves that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And then this kind of stuff he says back to me also. It's a punch for punch type of relationship.
It's kind of a brotherly love.
It's a brotherly love. Guys guys are guys, and when you get into that almost locker room talk,
we're just gonna be guys.
You
don't
absolutely.
want
the rest of the world to hear what you're talking about because it's like fingernails on a chalkboard.
I got you.
For decent people to listen to.
I got you. But within that tight circle, that's where it stays.
And that's the way it is with a lot of our crew members. I have a fantastic crew of Karen Preiser and Laura. Kristen, Chantal. We have a great hair department on this show, and they've all been on the island working for many, many years.
Mm-hmm,
they've worked for me many times over the years. I've known some of these people for 25 years now, and they'll jump on a grenade for me. If I tell them I need this to be done, they'll just do it, and I teach them everything I know to make them stronger, and they're better makeup artists and better leaders now, hopefully, because of that.
Sure.
So I benefit greatly by this crew, and we all joke around. I can't think of any one particular thing right now, and because many of the things are especially between the guys, because the ladies, I'm always going to treat them with respect. I'm going to treat them as a gentleman. Plus, I'm their boss.
Of course.
So I have to thank you very much. That looks great. I have to be that way. But the guys, no holds barred.
Free for all. I got you.
Free for all. You betcha.
I got you. I'm not going to mention any things I heard either, but, some of the things that go on when we're talking on the radio between each other and between the scenes, super, super funny. In fact, I think it's the good times is what made the time go by faster, so where we don't actually go insane. We enjoy what we do.
Yes. Yeah. You have to, that clock keeps moving forward. You have to do your job. You have to be very efficient at it. And you learn when to sprint and when to coast.
Sure.
When you first start off, you're sprinting all the time because you're in survival mode. You don't know where the mines are buried.
Absolutely.
After the years go by, you've learned where the mines are buried, and you know when you can tiptoe around them and you can get through that minefield without getting blown up.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
as you know, when you're in the business, almost everybody has a walkie-talkie in their ear. So you're listening to the chatter of all these different departments, and there's a lot of important information going on, and there's also a lot of ridiculous things going on too. There's a lot of side jokes and people dishing other people and all of that, but it's all fun.
Of course. Wow. It's interesting because could you even picture that we'd be at we just recently hit the 100th episode. I say we like I'm still a part of it, but hitting the 100th episode, that is so rare. That does not happen on very many TV shows. They're lucky to make it past the first season. How does it make you feel?
You bet. It makes me feel great. I lucked out with it. It's no credit to me. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. I don't have a lot of experience in television, and I happen to be involved with Lost and Hawaii Five-0. I also ran a show called Leverage in Portland for a season because I love Portland, and I plan on moving to Portland. I now live in Bend, Oregon, Central Oregon.
Yes.
And I wanted to work there for a few months to see what it was like. And I did this show called Leverage, which was wonderful to work on. So I had no idea when I got involved with this Hawaii Five-0 that it would be such a success. So we ended up being what's the word when you are? I've lost my brain all of a sudden. It's late at night. I left my brain on the set today. When people buy a block of 100 TV shows, that's only happened 3 times in its first season in the history of television.
Okay,
and we were one of them.
Wow!
And that's a huge success. This was in season 1. They said, "All right, if you guys get to 100 episodes." We will spend all of this money to buy those so that we can play them over and over on our network for eternity. And so that was a huge success. We went into 260 markets worldwide in our first year.
Sure.
So the world wants a piece of what we have to offer. And yeah, we have cool drama and we've got some good stories and some fun banter back and forth, but we have Hawaii. We used to say that the 5th cast member, the 5th character on Hawaii Five-0 was the island. We had the 4 core members. Now we have a couple others. But it used to be this was the island because people would tune in not just to see McGarrett and to see Kono and Chin Ho and Dano, but they would tune in to see the island.
The location, absolutely.
And we do make the island look beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Our flyovers and we push different businesses, whether it's Kona Brewing Company or Longboard and La Mariana Yacht Club, all these different places we push, and they show an improvement. They show an increase in people and tourists coming there. So it's wonderful to have that impact.
We've shot some locations here too, right around in this area. As a matter of fact,
many
right?
of them. Where we are right now is we're basically adjacent the Chinatown section, downtown Honolulu, and this is where most of the business skyscrapers of Honolulu are.
Sure.
Down the road a ways, we have Waikiki, where there are many of the large hotels. But right here, this is the business section.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a lot of filming around here. A lot of our screeching car scenes and explosions and things will happen down here on the weekend when we can close off the streets, like on a Sunday.
Right.
So that there's not a lot of business traffic going on around here.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. I've actually, it was an extra, I think in like season 3, and we were shooting right over here. And like at one point, I actually got my first taste of being a production assistant. And I was trying to help with the pedestrians because Patrick and Ian were there.
Right.
And
my son and his best friend, who were production assistants at the time.
Shout out to Patrick and Ian. And my heart went out to them. I seen they're trying to hold back a couple hundred people with just, like 6 PAs, I think, that day. And I was like thinking to myself, like, this is an impossible mission. So some of the extras actually started jumping in and kind of created like this human wall to keep them out of the shot.
Because it's a life and death situation. You're locking up street corners, and you may have a dozen entry points where pedestrians or cars can come in.
Right.
And you're locking this up for a moment or so while you do this stunt where these cars are screeching down the road at 50, 60 miles an hour.
Right.
And people don't know this is about to happen. They don't have the radio in their ear. They're walking down the street, and they can stumble out in the middle of the street and get killed.
Right.
This kind of thing can easily happen. It hasn't ever happened on our show. It rarely ever happens on any film or TV show around the world, but that potential is always there. So safety has to be the number one concern. That's
Absolutely.
Where production assistants that are all on radio, that are locking up on these street corners, keeping the traffic and the pedestrians out of the streets, is incredibly important.
Of course.
Yeah.
I was actually starstruck that very day because Scott Kahn's dad made a guest appearance.
Yes.
James Caan,
Yeah,
the legendary James Caan. And I seen him, he was actually talking in pidgin English and walking around barefoot. I couldn't believe it. I was literally like 10 feet away, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my God, isn't that James Caan? It was amazing.
Yeah, James Caan has an amazing career. I was fortunate enough to work with him on the movie Eraser years ago.
Wow.
Where he played the bad guy, and he and Arnold fight to the death at the end, and of course he dies.
Right.
And at the time, my daughter, who's now almost 19 years old, my wife was pregnant, and both James Caan and myself had daughters the same day.
Wow.
Both of our wives were pregnant, and our wives both had daughters that same day.
Okay.
So that we have that in common. So when I saw him again so many years later, it was great to work with him again.
Did it seem kind of a cool transition now from working with the father to working with the son? It
did, because they both have an amazing amount of talent, and you can see where it comes from.
Sure.
And Scott and his dad were very close on the show. It was so great to see them hug. Hey, Dad, what are you doing later? Do you want to get together for dinner? And I'm like, oh, this is because in Hollywood, these things don't always work out that way.
Mm-hmm.
You're raised as a child of a famous actor, and who knows what happens. I don't know if anything ever did happen with them. I just know that what I observed, they were very close. And it was wonderful to see that father-son love and common respect for each other.
I seen the kind of a similar between you and Patrick, too. You guys are very professional, but I can sense the love. Like he has a lot of respect for you.
I'm very proud of Patrick. Patrick has always been a very hard worker, a good student, and incredibly passionate about filmmaking.
So what's he doing right now? What kind of projects are you part of?
He decided after working here in the islands for a little over 2 years, he and his girlfriend and his best friend, Ian, all decided to move back to L.A. because they wanted to continue their career, and they figured that they had pretty much tapped out here.
Sure. They
had met so many production people and so many assistant directors and such that the doors opened up for them, and they started working right away.
Okay.
Ian is about to start as an office PA for Quentin Tarantino's newest film.
My God.
He's so excited about that.
Amazing. Congratulations,
Quentin
Ian.
Tarantino. I mean,
Yeah, oh my God.
The other students at Chapman University, where they both went to school and graduated with their film degree in Orange, California, would be wanting to shoot him for this probably.
Yeah.
And Patrick, of course, came over here right away and started working. Ian then came over here. Now Patrick's back there working as a full-time production assistant on Sons of Anarchy.
Oh
And
my
that's
goodness.
just finishing up now, and he's already made so many contacts to go on so many other shows.
Wow.
So they're off and running now.
You know, those two, when I first met them, like I think I told you a little bit earlier before the show started, I believe they were destined for big things.
Well, thank you. It's, as a father of Patrick and knowing Ian, pretty much all of Ian's life, because I've known him since he was a little boy, I tend to think that too. But, there's a little prejudice, I'm kind of going to always go that way with my kids. We all do that.
Of course. I like how you said kids too, because Ian has always referred to as like his second dad.
In a way, because I've been there a lot of times, because I'm in the film industry, his dad isn't. He has a wonderful dad that works hard and he's very close with.
Sure.
And, his mother and father are still a loving couple for so many years together. So he has a wonderful father figure, but I happen to be there a lot of times. And I've helped Ian out with certain things.
Sure.
I'm not his father by a long shot, but I can be a mature male role model, which I'm very comfortable to be, whether it's in the film industry or it was the Boy Scouts or, I'd love to be able to get into charities where I help young men and boys if I possibly could. I just don't have the time for that.
I seen, I think some work you did on one of Patrick's films. So I was watching, was it filmnuts.com or filmnuts?
Filmnut.
On livestream.tv.
Yeah, livestream.com.
And, I was watching some of the work and I couldn't believe, because you're touching up on how productions who have a limited amount of funds to work with, there's other ways to make things happen. And you're emphasizing on that. And when I looked at your work, I mean, I don't know, it was a real small production, right, for Patrick's film?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you're in film school, everything's a small production. It's guerrilla filmmaking.
So for anybody that's out there that's just curious because they, a lot like myself, they kind of want to get into the industry but have a limited budget, what would you say as far as if they need makeup work and they don't really have much more than $1 in their pocket?
Well, as you know, on this island, amazing projects get made for almost nothing. There's so much passion, and that's the key right there.
Sure.
If you have craftspeople, cameramen, actors, makeup artists, grips, electricians, people that have passion for the film industry and the television industry, you're going to get them to help you. They're happy to do it. They're happy to do it for free. You can get fantastic actors to work all day long, whether it's here or L.A. or New York, because people just want to work.
Sure.
So you can reach out to people and you can get people to do this. I'm aware of many, many productions that go on every year that bring in top shelf camera people, makeup people that work on the biggest features that come here, that work on Hawaii Five-0, and they work for free on weekends because they want to help people. They want to continue their craft.
Sure.
And I love that, to be in an industry that people are so passionate after working 60, 70, 80 hours during the week that they're willing to get up at 5 a.m, drive out to Kulo Ranch and work for 14 hours for free.
Right.
For something that maybe nobody will ever see and never complain once.
I guess if you love
that's the
something,
definition of passion right there.
Exactly. Well, they say, if you love something, then, it's not really work.
Yep, you're absolutely right with that. I've been doing this for 35 years. If I could afford to work for free, there's a lot of things I would do for free because I still love it.
Jeff, unfortunately, we're getting a little close to the end of the show, and I really hope very soon we can continue. This is really awesome. I don't know. I really wish we could have like a part 2 very soon. Hopefully, we can have you come back.
Maybe we can. Sure.
Very good.
I can tell more stories.
Oh,
like I
awesome.
said, 35 years of I can tell a lot of stories.
I think you could write a whole book about this.
I probably could, but people don't want to hear stuff
how to
about
make
that.
it in
They
the
wanna hear
industry.
They
how
want
to make
hear
it
the juicy stuff.
Yeah,
the stuff
absolutely.
I've seen and heard.
Absolutely. So let me. Okay, so before we end the show, I'd like to ask: is there any shout outs you want to make towards your company, towards any friends in the business, towards any friends and family that may be watching?
We've already done a shout out to my son Patrick, my daughter Brittany.
Very good.
I've already mentioned my crew. I have a fantastic crew on Hawaii Five-0 that's helped me for many years, and the cast. I've already talked about them.
Sure.
Quite a bit. You know what? We've certainly talked about me a lot, and I'm only so comfortable with that. I figure maybe some of my words can be educational and helpful, maybe even inspiring to people.
Okay.
I want to do maybe the main shout out to the Hawaiian people, to the Hawaiian Islands. I have so much respect for this island, so much respect for the culture and the history, the food, what's important to the people here, that I'm always honored to be accepted here. I've never felt prejudice. I'll joke around about being the white haole mainland boy, but I don't feel I exude that whatsoever. And I'm always honored to be accepted and to be Kamaina here.
Well, on behalf of the locals who are here, I like to say that you are Ohana, you are Hanaid, and you are a local boy at the soul. And I appreciate you. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. It's a blessing. Of course, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to be back at 10 o'clock, 10 to 12, and thank you very much for tuning in. KPRP, 6:50 a.m.